Mr. Martin Sensmeier.
How's everybody doing?
You're a native of Alaska,
That's right.
and you lived in an area that had no roads leading to your town,
None.
correct? And we like to ask you here, when you come to Robeson County, who's your people?
My people. Karshak gato sak, nutsni gato sak, chak nagasiti. Tekwedia echat kwashka kwan yari echat, achladus aik auske ach istus ai, gninak kanadashkan echat, ach istu ishas tekwedia akta kwan echat, klingir hasati. So that's my people. Klingit. So what I said was,
I just want to ask, Martin, I just want to ask the serious question. Did you sign all that? Okay, that's all. I just wanted to ask her.
no, that's my traditional introduction. I told you my name, Kashchak, and I'm from the Eagle and Bear clans of my tribe, which is the Tlingit people of Alaska, and my father is he's from the Quashquan clan, which is the Raven clan, and my mother is Athabaskan from the interior, from the Yukon. So that's kind of what I explained right there, and their clans as well. That's how we introduce ourselves. So that's my people.
Thank you. That's a great answer. I dare anybody to top that. So, Martin, you didn't just drop out of the sky into Hollywood, right?
Nah.
You had a long road, and I think it's very interesting, the work that you've done throughout your young years all the way up. You've done some very, very hard jobs, hard-working man, and I'd like for you to share with the audience some of the things that you've done up until now.
Okay. When I was 14, I started working construction, and by the time I was 16, I was working in the fish canneries, but I started welding at that time in my school. I was building boat trailers for fishermen and selling them, and it was about that time when I was like 15 or 16, I decided I'm going to be a welder. I told my dad I'm going to be a welder after high school. I'm going to go to college and study welding, and that's what I did. Got certified, welded for 3 years, got a job on an oil rig in Alaska, roughnecking on a rig on the North Slope. I did that for 5.5 years. But at the beginning of that time of working on the rigs, I started traveling to LA, and I had this itch that I just needed to scratch, and I wanted to get into an acting class and kind of just like do some scene work. It was fun. It was fun for me. I never thought I would be an actor. I just thought it was fun. So that's kind of why I went, and I loved LA. I don't really love it anymore. I miss home a lot, but I'm there, so got to grind while I'm at it.
All right. Well, over the years we've had, we talked about it earlier today, some of our speakers have included Maya Angelou, Henry Winkler, James Earl Jones, Spike Lee, Billy Mills, so many. And they've all talked about overcoming adversity, and that's always a universal message. So I know you've worked hard to get where you are. Talk about some of the things that you've had to overcome to get to the position that you're at.
I think that the obstacles are there already, and some of them we create in our minds, and those are the hardest ones to overcome, the obstacles we place before ourselves. And so for me, I needed to focus on wellness and health and healing. We have we carry the memory of our ancestors, and that experience is in us. So I think that all of us have to heal in some way or another, and when you don't address healing, it's like having a wound that just has a Band-Aid on it. So for me, there's so many things that I had to work on so many levels, mentally, emotionally, physically, obviously, for the roles that I portray, and spiritually. And I think that that allows me to see things for what they are and pursue the things that I believe in. And if I didn't have that strong foundation that was provided for me by my parents and other people in the community who helped raise me, then I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Thank you. You're a very proud ambassador of the Native Wellness Institute. We
Yes.
talked about that a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization and why that means so much to you?
Yeah, so Native Wellness Institute is based out of Oregon, and they travel around and do workshops in different communities, different Native communities, to help people deal with trauma, to help people deal with the healing that they need, and do a lot of good work around Indian country. And my involvement with them is based mostly around the youth. We do one workshop in the summer that's based on athletics, and that's the focus is to get these kids active. I've seen kids that have never been athletic before, who've never tried sports, even ever tried them, and then the first day they're there, they don't really want to interact, they don't really want to participate. The second day they're kind of participating. By the third day they're all playing and they're all having fun. So it's like, if you're not a very active person, then I would encourage you to do simple, just be active and move around and walk or whatever, run, whatever. But I think that, that's a really powerful program that we run. And in the wintertime, there's one in December, first week of December. So if you get a chance, check out nativewellness.com. There's a symposium that we hold in San Diego in December, and that one's focused on dealing with trauma and healing, and that's a very powerful conference for the youth. And I'm just happy to be a part of it, because a lot of my healing has come through Native Wellness Institute, and the teachings that they carry and these ideas have influenced me greatly. And so I try to share that with as many people as I can.
I heard you speak, or watched you speak on YouTube at the Doyen Convention, which is in Alaska, and you talked a little bit about how you became interested in acting and kind of shared your story somewhat, and how some people didn't really take you very seriously.
Yeah.
Especially when you said, "I'm going to be acting with Denzel Washington one day."
Yeah.
Before you started acting, you said,
Right.
"I'm going to act with Denzel one day," and some
Yeah.
people were like, "Okay,"
Yeah.
and some people were like, "Yeah, I believe you might do
Yeah.
that." So, talk a little bit about that evolution.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a kid that tells you he's going to play in the NBA one day, right? You never notice, you don't believe it, but when they believe it, then that's what matters. I believed it, I remember shooting my first short film in Seattle, a short film that never came out, by the way. But I was acting in front of a camera, it was the first time in my life. And I had done plays in school and stuff, but this is my first time acting in front of a camera, and I just had so much fun, and I remember feeling really confident after we finished, and I was sitting on the couch with my brother and one of my other bros and another one that was shooting the film, and we were all sitting around, and I was just kind of sitting there spaced out, and I looked up at my brother and I said, "I'm going to work with Denzel one day, and I'm going to kill it." And he just looked at me and he said, "I believe you." And he did. And my other bro was like, "Word," and 2 years later I was working with Denzel. So if you believe in your dreams and if you believe in it strong enough and you work towards it, anything is possible. Anything.
That's great. So you talking about Denzel, you have worked with some incredibly talented people. Chris Pratt, Jeremy Renner, of course Denzel, Ethan Hawke, Elizabeth Olsen, and you'll be working with Angelina Jolie very soon. What is it like for you working with such established actors who are so expert at their craft? You're still young in your craft. How does it feel when you're on set with them? Are you intimidated, or do you just say, "Hey,
100%.
I got to roll"?
Yeah, I'm intimidated every time I have to act, and I think that's why I do it, because I like that fear. I like doing something that scares me a little bit, and it's when you work with that caliber of performers, it forces you to elevate your game, right? So I study really hard and really work on my craft and my material, and when I get on that stage, it's like, man, I got to perform. Like I'm playing with the the Michael Jordans and the LeBron Jameses, and you know, like I gotta not turn the ball over and play well, and you know, and do my thing. So that's kind of how I look at it. I like to look at things and try to find an analogy for them, because then I can relate to it, you know, in another way that even if I don't know it, like, you know, and just get in there and do my best and you know, work hard at what I do. So preparation is everything.
You talked to me a little bit about watching Denzel work.
Yeah.
And how the analogy you used was sort of like a general on the set, and everyone else is sort of a soldier.
That's right.
And then you told me the story about him changing the script for one of your better scenes in Magnificent Seven. Could you share that story with us?
Yeah, I mean, him and Antoine, they kind of, you know, like, Denzel's such a great storyteller and so seasoned that things come to him at a time, like, in the middle of a story, something might, and Antoine as well, and all these guys that I work with, something might come to them, and they'll be like, this actually makes more sense. We should perform this scene like this, and he'll come out and talk to everybody and say, oh yeah, you saw it right here. You go say this, you say that, and I come out, you know, like boom boom, that's a wrap, it's a scene, and it's just amazing watching that, because I'm like, man, I sit here and study these lines so much and work on it. And then he just goes and just like, I don't know, it's just amazing to watch somebody that good. And then without having an idea, like they change a scene on the day, right? And then perform the scene on the day. And it's like, he didn't have any time to study or work on that. He just did it. You know, like I have to work on my things. I can't just do something like that. But that's experience. That's, you know, that's 100,000 hours for him. Yeah, so it's amazing to work with somebody, such great storytellers who make it about the story. That's the thing, is you see actors that make it about themselves, and you see actors that make it about the story. And I think it always has to be about the story first. We're there to tell a story, and I'm just a conduit for that story to be told through. And that's all I see myself as. You know, just a filter for, you know, it's not about me. I don't even watch my own work most of the time, because I'll critique it too much. I'll be like, nah, I should have done this, I should have done that. Dang, what was I thinking, you know? And I just chew it apart, and that can mess with your head a little bit. So I'm like, no, it's not meant for me to appreciate. It's meant for you to appreciate. I'm performing for you, not for me. I enjoy the act of doing it, but ultimately I'm giving that story to an audience, right? So so I always think, if I'm doing that, then I have to think what's best for the story first.
We talked a little bit about your dad, 2 tours in Vietnam. This is a community that's very supportive of the military. A lot of our Lumbee brothers and sisters have served in the military with great pride. And I wanted you to talk a little bit, because we're going to talk about some of your heroes, but I know we start with your dad.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your dad.
Oh, man. There's so many things I could talk about. First off, he's got one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard. But, you know, like he got drafted into the war in Vietnam in 1968 after his mom died from cancer, like immediately after. And then after his first tour, so he was a recon team leader, first to the 7th Air Cav recon team leader, first one in, last one out. And as a sergeant, you know, when he came home, he felt like, oh man, he's worried about his men. So he volunteered and went right back. And so he served 548 days in 1968 and 69. You know, he still fights for the people. He's very much an activist, fights for the land. And he really cares. He really cares about people. He really cares about our rights and our subsistence way of life. And so he works hard at that. But growing up, he was very strict. You know, like he's waking me up at 5:30. Son, you going to the gym? You know, I'm like, okay. You know, athletics were very important. He fought in the Golden Gloves Championship 3 times, so he was a boxer. And we didn't have boxing, we had basketball. So, you know, okay, we're going to get good at basketball, son. You know, and so, you know, whether I liked it or not, he put me in basketball camps and started playing when I was a young age, and he just woke me up every morning because he's old school, so he was up by 4 a.m., you know, and waking me up at 5:30, and yeah, it's just kind of set the precedent for how I'm going to live my life, and every job I've ever had, and every commitment I've ever made, I try to give my best and do my best, and he instilled that in me, as well as my mom, you know.
Yep. The only time I saw your face light up more when we talked about your heroes, your eyes lit up when you talked about your dad, but then when you talked about your mom.
Oh, man.
Tell them about your mom.
Mom, man, she's the most amazing person in the world to me. And she got the biggest love, you know, like a mother should. But she's the first Native woman ever to come out of Alaska and get become a physician's assistant, and she became the health director as well at home. And she, you know, she takes care of people. She takes care of the elders at home. She goes and does home visits after she gets off work to go check on the elders and take care of them and provide for some of them. And when she has free time, she's doing subsistence, putting fish up and things like that, or doing beadwork. She's always using her hands, so she's never stopped. So she also taught me about hard work, because I saw that every day in her. You know, it's like she's always doing, always, and both of my parents have always taught me that there's always more. You can always do more. There's always more to be done, son. Like, don't stop, you know. And, you know, I wasn't allowed to sit in the house in the daytime and play video games or watch TV. No, my parents kicked me out. Like, you got to go outside, you know. So, and that's just, you know, the way I was raised. Old school, right?
When we were at WNCP today, I asked you to list your heroes, and you started with your dad.
Yeah.
And then your mom, and then
Yeah.
you started naming people within your own community.
Yeah.
And I thought that was beautiful, because that's realistic for young people in our community to find people that are here at your place and let them be your heroes. So I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And why do you feel like, you know, you're so close to your community?
I mean, because that's all I ever knew until I was 18. You know,
500 people in
you know, there's 540 people there right now, I think. There's no roads in or out. You have to take a plane or a boat to get there. You know, my parents have been living there. They've been married for 42 years. And yeah, it's just, you know, growing up, I never saw like Native representation on the screen. I mean, I watched Dances with Wolves and Last of the Mohicans, but, you know, like I never saw many Natives outside of that in mainstream anything, right? So, like, me dreaming of acting, I'm like, okay, well, who do I have to look at to do that? You know, and the ones that I did were you know, from other tribes that I knew nothing about, and also there was no professional athletes that, you know, that I saw that were Native, so I couldn't aspire to be that, because I knew by the time I was 15, I knew I wasn't going to be Michael Jordan, you know, and so that's when I decided, like, okay, I feel like a man, I should get a man's job, and I'm going to do man's work, you know, and that's what I did, what I thought I, you know, because I couldn't sit at a desk. I don't have a college degree. I'm not, you know, school was tough for me, because I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't hard because the learning part, that was easy. It was just, you know, I can't be like growing up outdoors, it's hard for me to be inside and sitting behind a desk. I got to be active and do things, and that's just me, you know, so, yeah.
How does it feel now? Because I know you have a lot of respect for the elders in your culture, and I watched you speak at a conference, and you looked almost uncomfortable because there were so many elders in the audience. You did a great job, but I know you have a lot of respect for the elders in your community.
Yeah.
So now that you go back as a role model, how does that feel for you? You know, when elders, kids, everybody are kind of looking at you as a representation of their community.
Right. It is tough for me to talk to elders and try to offer something meaningful to them, because, you know, like, they got me beat in life experience. You know, like, I have a lot of life to live, and so I'm always wanting to learn from elders and listen to their stories and their opinions and the way that they feel. The reason why I'm able to speak and share my story or my thoughts is because one time I was at NCAI, National Congress of American Indian, in 2011, and there was people getting up in line to talk about an issue regarding eagle feathers, and I stood up in line, and these elders started, not so much the elders but the elders, started cutting in front of me, and like, I'm young, and I was like, you know, 23 or 24, I'm 20, you know, like, I couldn't say anything. I hadn't really found my voice yet. And there was one elder who stood up, and right when I got to the mic, they cut it off, and they didn't let me talk. And I said, okay, well, I just stood here for like 25 minutes, but it's whatever. So I started walking to sit down, and this old woman in the front row, she stood up and she got mad, and she said, we need to hear what the young people have to say. She said, it's important for us to hear what they have to say. They should respect us, but we have to respect them too. And so I want to hear what this young man has to say. And they still didn't let me talk, but for her to say that to me, it kind of gave me a validation in that my thoughts and opinions as a young person matter. We're gonna take the torch one day, and so yeah. So I mean, but it's an honor to be able to communicate with people. I never feel like I'm talking at you. I'm talking with you, and we'll get to questions. But I like listening and hearing what people have to think, because I don't think all this stuff up myself. I didn't make it all up. I've learned from others,
You're very educated about your culture and other people's cultures. How does your culture affect your day-to-day activities?
Culture is many things, and I think that, as far as we have our ways of life, and then we have our values. And I think that, our way of life is something that's at home. It's something that, we participate in there. But also our values are with us every day, and we carry that everywhere. I think that, my traditional values are very similar to other tribes' traditional values, and just good people values, really. And I try to live by that. I try to carry that with me. I think about what I'm going to say to somebody before I say it. Does it make sense? Is it helpful? I try to be thoughtful and respectful. And that's, so yeah, they're with me every day, because, I was raised with those values, and, they're part of me.
You are an ambassador for the Boys and Girls Club of America. And something I learned was that the Boys and Girls clubs have been on native lands for 25 years, serving native students. I think they deserve a hand for that.
Yeah.
We have a local Boys and Girls Club.
First one was built in Pine Ridge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Martin spent about 45 minutes at the Boys and Girls Club in Pembroke. There weren't a lot of kids there because it's serving as a relief area for the storm, but he still went, and a lot of the staff were there. And you spoke with great pride about your role with the Boys and Girls Club. So express to the people why it means so much to you.
Well, growing up, when I was, that was a place to go play basketball. We didn't have a Boys and Girls Club in my community, but when I moved to Anchorage, and even growing up, when I was a kid, we'd go spend the summers up north sometimes, where my mom's from, and they had Boys and Girls Clubs up there. But it was always a place to go play basketball. And one of the beautiful things about the Boys and Girls Clubs is that, a lot of times the people working there are volunteering. And I found a lot of encouragement there. It just helps. As a youth, when adults they show you love, that's really, and encourage you. That's so powerful. That's one thing that, I think we have to look at too, is in understanding our relationship to power, right? Like, we have to understand our relationship to power, because think about this. Sometimes we feel powerless. With our fears, doubts, and insecurities, whatever we're dealing with, we feel powerless, and we feel invisible sometimes. But think about that for a second. How low can you go? How low can you bring yourself with those fears, doubts, and insecurities? And then how does that affect the people around you? They feel it. It brings them down. So that's using power, and you can lift somebody up with that same power, right? So when I go to places like the Boys and Girls Clubs, I'm always lifted up, right? And a lot of these kids that attend these clubs, they don't, some of them, their father figure is at the Boys and Girls Clubs, or their mother figure, and I think that's so special, and it's needed. And so, yeah, it's an honor to be able to interact and go to these clubs and try to offer some of my platform to help any way that I can.
Columbus Day. We talked about it a little earlier today. It's a controversial celebration in our country, and you are an activist. So what do you think about Columbus Day?
I don't think much. So if you need, like, here's just a little, real quick history lesson. If you need another reason to hate Columbus, aside from the fact that he didn't discover us, is that, like, by the time, like, it was like his third voyage, I think, and he was getting ready. By that time, you know, they had already established, like, governance, and Hispaniola, I think was where it was, and he was getting ready to go back to Spain, and so he didn't have enough resources to make it. So he told the native people there they only created enough, you know, they farmed or whatever. They only had enough resources to get them through that time. And so, you know, him having an understanding of astrology said, if you don't give me all your food in 1 week's time, I'm gonna, you know, cause an eclipse, right? And the moon is gonna turn blood red. And so some people were like, he's full of crap. And then some were like, oh man, we gotta listen to this guy. The power they have, their ships, their guns, you know, and in a week's time, sure enough, you know. So he stole all their resources and then left. And that's just one more reason, you know, like, but aside from the massacres and, yeah, it's just a horrible thing, you know, like, why are we celebrating Columbus Day? Just abolish it. Yeah, I don't even think you need to necessarily replace it with Indigenous Peoples Day everywhere. Just abolish it, you know. It's cool that they do that, but, you know, just get rid of it.
Is that the answer y'all are looking for? So we've been heavy for a few minutes, okay? Let's lighten things up just a hair. All right, so Martin, we were having dinner last night, and you're like, hey, you know, why don't we shoot ball tomorrow? I said, well, I'm 50. I don't shoot ball anymore, but I can arrange it for you. So he played 2 hours of ball with some of our students and staff in the gym. So I know you play basketball to stay in shape. What else do you do to stay in shape and to prepare for roles?
Oh, man. Well, I'm getting ready to play Jim Thorpe, so...
We're going to talk about Jim Thorpe in a minute, but yeah, that's amazing.
So I'm nowhere near the shape I'm going to be in when I play that. I took the summer off from working out because I've been working out for years, and I just had aches and pains, little, you know, joints and stuff. I took the summer off and just stretched and jogged and worked out a little bit, but for the most part, I just needed to heal my body, and now I'm kind of like getting ready to dive into this thing. But I've kind of restructured my home a little bit, so I got my I have a weight room in my house, and I got a gym membership to like 3 different gyms that I like to go at. And one of them I play basketball at, one of them I like to work out at, one of them I like to go sit in the steam room, and then I got a trainer who's training me 4 to 5 times a week. And aside from that, I mountain bike a lot. I got a mountain bike, so I go hit the mountains in Santa Monica Mountains, and you know, did 12 miles the other day, and I, you know, just be active, always exercising, and that's pretty much, you know, it's a lifestyle, really, you know. So I'm not gonna work out this hard forever. No. You brought up Jim Thorpe. Oh, by the way, I offered to take Martin to Fuller's, right? What? So I'm like, Fuller's, everybody that comes to visit Robeson County should go to Fuller's one time. And he's like, so what's Fuller's? And I'm like, it's, you know, it's like soul food. It's like heavy. He's like, nah, I can't do Fuller's. I want to. Trust me, I do. That's one thing that, you know, now that I'm taking this thing on is like, yeah, I'm always hungry, you know, because I'm always working out and I'm always tired. But, you know, I got to eat healthy. And, you know, like you eat some fries and you're full for 5 hours, you know. You eat a salad and a bowl of rice and some chicken, you're hungry in a half an hour, you know. And then you got to live with that for a couple hours, and then, you know, go into it just sucks.
I'm going to keep working on you about that anyway. So you mentioned it, and I want to skip a couple of things, and I want to get to this Jim Thorpe thing. And some of you guys that don't know Jim Thorpe, I just want to set it up for you. You'll be working with Angelina Jolie in the movie Bright Path, the Jim Thorpe story. It was announced back in, I think, June. But for those of you that don't know, let's talk about Jim Thorpe for a minute. He was the first Native American to win a medal in the Olympics. He won 2 gold medals. He did the pentathlon, which is 5 events in one day. The next day, he started the decathlon, which is 10 events in 2 days. He also placed in the open long jump and the open high jump all in about a week at the Olympics, all right? 2 gold medals. Nobody's ever won gold medals in those 2 events. After that, he came back to the States, played in the NFL. Not only did he play in the NFL, he became the president of the NFL. Then he was a charter member of the NFL Hall of Fame. Then he was inducted into the U.S. Track and Field Hall of Fame, U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame. He's just basically the baddest dude to ever be an athlete. So he's Native. This gentleman has been selected to play Jim Thorpe, and I know that means a lot to you because he's a hero of yours. He's just a bad dude.
He also played for the New York Giants when they were a baseball team, and the Cleveland Indians as well. So he played some baseball professionally as well.
Yep. And he's in the College Football Hall of Fame too. So what does this mean to you? Because this is big.
Man, I can't really put it into words. It's bigger. It's like when I got the part, it's so big for me that it's like, man, can I even do this? Do I even want to do this? That's so much pressure. And then it was like, no, I have to do this. So yeah, I've been blessed with this wonderful opportunity, and now it's becoming a responsibility. So I can't talk about it too much because I'm just doing it, right? I got to do the work. And so, training like a professional athlete is a big part of that. And doing the homework and doing the research and, all of that. So instead of talking about what it means to me, hopefully we can make a good movie that y'all enjoy, and you'll see how much it means to me, and I understand that what that means to the communities as well. So that's why I'm here. That's why I go places, because I want to be accessible to the community, and my life isn't my own, and I'm also, like my dad wanted to be an actor, but he had such a tough life that it was never a possibility, and so I'm the hero of his dream, right? So that gives me more motivation and more pressure as well to perform and to be the best that I can be and not take days off or not take it for granted or get lazy,
Can you talk a little bit about how you and Angelina Jolie talked about the evolution of this movie?
Yeah. Well, Angie, she's one of the most amazing people I've ever met. And really, don't believe anything you read in the tabloids. They make all that crap up. It's just horrible what they do to people that, trying to live their life. But, the real person, the real Angelina, she's one of the most amazing people I've ever met. She really, truly cares about the world and people. And that's who she is. And she uses her platform for that, but also she has Native ancestry too. She has Iroquois ancestry, and so Haudenosaunee, and she didn't grow up in that culture, but she wants to honor Native people because of that part of her lineage. And I think that when we were having a conversation, she was interested in what I'm working on. She wanted to develop some kind of Native story, didn't know what it was, and I brought Jim Thorpe to the table, and she offered to help. So that's huge, and I can't say how big that is. She said, "How can I help?" I said, "How do you want to help?" So it's amazing that she's involved, as well as Todd Black, who produced Magnificent Seven. Todd Black produces all of Denzel Washington's films. He signed on to the project, so we got a big team pushing this thing, and I just got to show up and do the work.
I have no doubt that you will. I think he deserves a hand because this is a big.
Thank you.
You shared with me some advice that Denzel gave you one time. He set you down. Could you tell that story?
Yeah, I wanted it really hit home with me because my dad used to tell me this, and when you're young, a lot of times your parents tell you things and you you hear them, but you're not listening, you know, and I've heard things, you know, that's why I try to listen to everybody now, and especially my parents, because they're still teaching me. I'm, you know, 34, and they're still teaching me, you know, but my first time meeting Denzel, we had a good conversation, and he just, you know, he asked me some questions, and he said, "You know why you're here, young man?" And I said, "Man, we're making a movie." He's like, "No, you're here because the prayers of your grandmother's grandmother's grandmother are running through you, and they're at work today. And so this isn't even about you. Let's just get that out of the way. It's not even about you. So, you know, if you had that idea, forget it. You know, it's about what you're gonna do, and the platform this is gonna give you to work in the community." And I believe that, you know. So that's why I try to make myself accessible as much as I can, and do as much work as I can in the community, because he's right. It's not about me. This isn't, you know, this like I said, my life isn't my own, right? So I'm thankful for him for sharing that with me.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And that goes to you too. Like, you think about, like, if you're ever struggling, you know, think about what our ancestors went through. It was harder for them, you know, and that fuel that they had burning inside of them to persevere and overcome what they had to overcome. Like, that same blood runs through you, pumps through your heart, you know. So you have that power, that transgenerational wisdom is in you. You just have to unlock it and access it. You know, it's there. So search within yourself and ask the right questions, and you'll find, you know, hopefully find the answers. But, you know, remember the ancestors.
Respect. The movie Wind River is a very heavy movie. It's excellent. Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen. It's about the kidnapping and murder of a young Indigenous woman. It's a problem that many are unfamiliar with. Missing and murdered Indigenous women make up a huge percentage of the crimes against women in the U.S. and Canada. So what can we do to bring more attention to that issue?
It's crazy to me that the first time I ever saw the subject of missing and murdered Indigenous women on the news, on TV news, was watching Jeremy Renner talk about the movie. And I'm thankful for him. I'm thankful to him for allowing that conversation to be had through his platform, you know. But people don't have to do these. They don't have to talk about the issue. You know, when you're working on a movie, the conversation became about the issue less than it was about the movie. And so stories are powerful. And I think that, you know, storytelling helps, but also, you know, something that the media can cover. Yeah, we just have to continue to raise awareness and try to, you know, help that. You know, it's just such a serious thing, man. I can't, you know, get emotional thinking about it, because I got sisters. I got a lot of sisters. And, yeah, it's sad. It's a sad thing, you know.
We appreciate that the work that you're doing to bring it to the forefront. Another heavy issue. A lighter note, you are a Lakers fan.
100%.
100% Lakers fan. You guys know we're the Hornets. He called us the Bobcats yesterday. I don't know how long we've been the Hornets, but anyway, that's how much he
cares. The bus like that, man.
That's how much he cares about our team in Charlotte. So you got LeBron, right? So now, are you on this getting to the finals thing like everybody else? Or are you realistic and know that they ain't going nowhere? Just share it with me.
I mean, you know, I've been a Lakers fan, like I said, and I've stuck with the Lakers the last 6-7 years, even though
That's been tough. Tell me, that's been tough.
Yeah, you know, missed the playoffs. I'm still rocking a Lakers cap. I don't care. I'm a loyal fan. Yeah, no, I'm excited for the season. You know, I think a lot of people are giving LeBron crap because it was kind of this Kobe-LeBron comparison. Even although they never really even had a rivalry, they never competed against each other in finals. You know, LeBron's the best player in the game, and it's cool to have him in L.A. You know, that's all I can say. You know, a lot of people think, oh, he's got to win, he's got to do this, he's got to do that. No, he just signed a 4-year contract to be in L.A. We got him. Like, let him go to work. You know, so yeah.
All
we'll
right,
see.
so we'll follow it
We'll see.
a little bit. I got a feeling they may win a few more games than our Hornets. So, but we'll
See,
follow.
he's almost calling them the Bobcats. Look at that.
Hey, that was for you to let you know it can happen. So, talk a little bit about setting goals, because that's been a big part of your life.
The what?
And setting goals.
Yeah.
A little bit to our audience, and also the art of working together, because we are coming off of a major hurricane,
Yeah.
a major disaster. Second time in 3 years we've had this happen. People are homeless, without food, still. So it's not over. Some people were still displaced even after, the first one. So what can we do first to set goals away from that, but also to come together as a community to try to make things better for people?
Well, that's a big question. I grew up in a community that worked together, so I see the power in that, and I've also been in a situation to where I've had other people trying to tear me down who are from my community, right? And sometimes they win, So I think that it's important for us to just to lift each other up and realize that I think a part of that, the reason I think that we tear others down, sometimes it comes from our own insecurities. So there's things that we need to deal with inside of ourselves before we interact with others in that kind of a way. But I mean, that's power, right? It's your misuse of power. When you tear somebody down, you're misusing your power because you're affecting them. But if you lift them up, you're also using your power. So there's positive and negative in everything, and we just have to figure out which one we're going to feed, right? And so I've never lived in an area with a natural disaster like this, but it's really nice to see everybody that I've interacted with being so supportive of each other, and been over to the Boys and Girls Clubs and hearing about the first responders. That's good, man. And I think that in tough times like these, you have to come together. And I think that when the tough time dissolves, then people kind of dissolve and separate from each other as well. I think that's one thing. These things that happen to us is an opportunity to interact with each other and get to know each other and try to community organize, right? That's what I see. There's probably a lot better answer for that, and I just
That's good.